whatever is meant for you won't miss you.
Any moment that I have one thought, you probably have 100.
I might just have to throw that entire dream out the window.
Push through that exhaustion, disassociate and get it done.
Take a seat.
Started when I was in law school and I was really ashamed of it.
We're on the wrong path. We're on the wrong track.
Keep looking for that praise in your professional life and doing anything you can to get it.
You're going to get to that point if that's what you believe, and it is not going to feel the way you think it is.
You are a cool girl. You're so much cooler than me.
No way.
Look at
no
your
way.
top. Are you kidding me? Hi everyone, welcome back to Non-Billable Hours. My name is Odette and today I have my very first non-lawyer guest. She is someone who I met at a cold plunge a couple years ago. After shutting down a multi-six-figure business due to life-threatening burnout and anxiety, Hannah O'Donovan rebuilt her work from a place of alignment rather than survival. She is a somatic channel nervous system specialist and the founder of the Untamed Divine Feminine, helping women release anxiety-inducing ambition and create success that feels aligned, embodied, and financially sustainable. Hannah, I'm so excited to chat with you. Let's get into it. Welcome, Hannah.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
For those of you out there, Hannah and I met at a cold plunge.
We sure
met
did.
Right before going into Lake Ontario in November, December.
Yep.
We connected that day and you were just so lovely. So I'm really glad that we've kept in touch. And Hannah's also a fellow podcaster. Do you want to just give the viewers a little sneak peek about what your podcast is about?
Yeah, absolutely. And Odette has actually been a guest on my podcast, a very popular episode that I recommend checking out. Yeah, it was really fun to talk about. My podcast is called The Untamed Divine, and it's for female leaders to untangle from anxiety and self-doubt through divine feminine abundance.
And I watch it and I subscribe to it, and definitely go check it out. Hannah is also my first non-lawyer or non-even former lawyer guest. And I was saying before we started that I think you're the perfect person because I think the things that you talk about and the areas that you kind of operate in and the spheres that you're in, I think are really important for the listeners to hear and for me to hear. So I'm going to jump right into my first question for you. So you shut down at one point a multi-six-figure business because of life-threatening burnout, which is intense. So can you walk me through, to as much detail as you're comfortable, kind of what was going on in your life at that point to make you realize that, okay, I'm hitting burnout. I need to do things differently now.
Absolutely. Well, firstly, I feel very honored. I feel like I've been invited into like a cool girls club.
You are a cool girl. You're so much cooler than me.
No way.
Look at
no
your
way.
top. Are you kidding me?
But like to be the first non-lawyer, like I'm very, very honored. So thank you for having me here. I hit in the fall of 2021 a pretty extreme burnout. And I say life-threatening because for me, it was like a mental life-threatening, as in my brain was playing some pretty major tricks on me because my body was in such a state of activated fight flight and I couldn't get like a lot of respite from it after a 15 or so year career in event production. I worked in the corporate space for a while and then decided to go out on my own. I'm like finally getting my footing. And then the pandemic hits. And of course, live events, not really super popular during that time. So like hard pivot to online events, then coming back into like what events look like after the pandemic and really like hustling pretty hard. I only really understood one model of success, which was the same model as success that I learned in school, where I pushed myself because then I got really great validation from my parents, from my teachers.
Wow, a star.
And then I just took that into my career because in the event world, which is not unique to the event world, but in the event world, it is fast paced, like crazy deadlines, so much work leading up to, we're often behind before we've even started. Praise becomes a very big part of the ecosystem. And then like a lot of adrenaline comes from it. And then also you're on site with people and you're like, this is awesome. Like, I feel like I'm back at summer camp with all my friends. And then you're kind of trauma bonding because everyone's so hyper stressed. And that's one of the big parts of it, right? Is that like, the co-regulation is not happening because everyone is stressed. There's no like calming mirror situation happening. So I'm in that for work. And then in my personal life, I'm in a relationship that is like draining my cup faster than I can fill it up. And there was no break anywhere. And I was doing all the things that I thought I was supposed to do. I was exercising regularly. I had just done the 75 hard challenge,
Oh my God.
the one and only time. I was doing talk therapy. I was even adjusting what I was eating because my hair was starting to fall out. I was having extreme gut issues. My body was sending me signals. The body is so intelligent. Like it can sense when we're misaligned before our mind can understand or grasp that fact. And so my body like halted me in my tracks and put me into basically a state where I could not ignore the truth. And that led to me ending a 7-year relationship, and then starting to shut down my business and then open up Soma, which is my baby now, my business that I'm building in a very, very different way.
Yes, queen. Yes, queen.
You touched on so many important things. One of which is the being a good student and getting used to the praise and using that as a I'm worth it because this teacher likes me, or I'm worth it because I got an A. It's addictive, right? And like I was a student until I was in my late 20s. Like,
brother,
when it starts to become, I guess, toxic or unhealthy, like you said, is when you keep looking for that praise in your professional life and doing anything you can to get it. And then talking about the gut stuff. Yeah. I couldn't eat anything for like 7 years. I was allergic to everything.
Whoa.
Like I basically had to be like the most restrictive vegan you could think of.
I'm a vegan.
I was ignoring a bunch of signs that certain things in my life weren't the way they should be. And yeah, the gut knows. There's so much knowledge in there. What were some other signs that you needed to make a change?
Biggest sign for me, which is sometimes hard to see because I experienced a lot of anxiety growing up, a lot of it because I was undiagnosed ADHD, which I actually, after my burnout experience, got late diagnosed in my early 30s. But anxiety was not a new sensation for me. It was one I was very familiar with. It's my anxiety. But the panic was like more intense than it ever been. So like I love to travel. I could not get on an airplane. My fear of getting on an airplane was so heightened that like, and probably some other stuff to do with that too, now that I'm thinking about it. But it was so heightened that like it was stopping me from living my life in the way that I'm used to, even though like we all have fear, we all have anxiety, we all have those moments where we're like, oh gosh, I really want to do this, but like I'm scared, and we push through anyways. But this was like impacting me, my everyday. And I then was starting to get panic attacks, full blown panic attacks where like my hands were numb. It would grow up my, up my arms into my chest. And then it got to the point of disassociation. And those were sort of some major ones. And then just like really intrusive thoughts, and really just like, I love life. Like, I think life is so, I mean, it's hard and painful and uncertain and scary, but I like want to squeeze every flippin' ounce out of it. And when I get to a space where I'm like, what's the point? That's a pretty big signal for me.
A lot of high achievers were like often like praised for our ability to push through that exhaustion that you were talking about, that anxiety, disassociate and get it done. I do that at work sometimes. If I'm particularly nervous about something or stressed about something, I don't want to worry my way through the day and just nervous sweat my way through the day. So I'll just tell myself I don't care, even though I know I care. And I'll associate or go into what I like to call zombie mode. But it sounds like, and I think this is true of a lot of us, at some point it's no longer resilience, it's self-destruction. Right.
100%. And it's a very clear signal from the body that like we're on the wrong path. We're on the wrong track. And I think in this day and age, we are inundated with so much information. There are so many options out there for medication. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against medication. I have taken medication in the past and I will likely take medication again in the future.
Yeah.
It works for a reason. And when we are given that as like the first line of defense and not, hey, like, have you been self-abandoning a lot lately? Like, can you tell the truth to the people who are closest to you? Like, does your entire body contract every time you have to go into work? Are you being dismissed or ignored at work? Okay, let's start there. Like, or, are you pushing through your exhaustion when you really need a rest? Like, let's start there. And so I think that we have a lot of excuses and like cultural, societal excuses for being like this. Like, people will often say, like, of course you're inundated with more news than you were ever supposed to be. And I think that can be a little insidious in the way that we think, well, okay, then of course I'm feeling like blah and indifferent about life. And it's like, yes, and it's not supposed to be this way. When that anxiety spikes, it's immediate for me. And it is 99% of the time that I have been pushing my boundaries, hustling, overworking, not resting. And now I can actually look at that as like, oh, this is the first stop sign.
Danger. See, now maybe if you'd worn something like that, I would have paid attention.
And if I choose to ignore this stop sign, there will be maybe a couple more before I hit a pretty rough patch. So am I going to decide now to pay attention?
Well, we all don't 100% of the time practice what we preach. But I also was a Cipralex girly for over a decade. I started when I was in law school.
Yeah.
And I was really ashamed of it. Probably should have started about 5 or 6 years earlier. But there was a whole bunch of reasons I went on it, and then I stayed on it. And at some point I was like, if I'm on this for the rest of my life, maybe that's okay. I kind of made peace with it. And I know everyone's different. Some people will be on it for their entire lives. For me, it was a situational thing. And I know this is true of a lot of people because this is what it does. The extremes were gone, but there was just a lot more. So I didn't sink as far, but I also didn't experience as much crazy happiness. I wasn't experiencing that. And I don't think I experienced that for a very long time. That's something that you are very passionate about, is nervous system regulation, right? What is it for people who've never heard that term before I go on? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting. I think people maybe either haven't heard of it or you've heard the like social media version, which is now getting a little like in at least the algorithm that I'm connected to. People are starting to kind of debunk this like nervous system regulation isn't actually what you want. But what it is more to the point that like, if you associate nervous system regulation with being calm all the time, that's not what we want. And so I always want to preface a conversation about nervous system regulation with the fact that like being regulated is not about being like zen and nothing bothers you and you can just react like this to everything all the time. I am the furthest person from that. You can ask my partner, Lee. I am a spicy, spicy gal. The words that resonate more for me are nervous system devotion. That's something that I've come up against because if I devote attention and time to nervous system rituals and to being aware of what my body and my nervous system are asking me for, then I'm able to express better and get myself back to a baseline, a state of rest and digest more often, which is what we want, right? We don't ever want to stay in one state. So for like very basic nervous system 101 here is you've got your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight flight nervous system, let's call it like state. And then you've got your parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest nervous system state. That's a very, very simplified way of talking about a very intelligent and complicated system. And then you've got also a version of parasympathetic where you kind of go too far down, let's call it, where you're in freeze collapse, which can look like if you are really struggling to like get into gear, you're procrastinating a lot, you have a lot you need to do, and you're just maybe lying on the couch and you can't really like get yourself motivated. Whereas fight flight, the more activated side of things, is like that can be like got a lot of energy you need to expend, anxiety, and those kind of you literally want to, fight, you get maybe a little aggressive. And then there's flee as well, which is where you might want to escape the situation, and really avoid it at all costs. So that kind of breakdown is to say that we need the activated states. We also even need that freeze option because they are a survival mechanism. They are what has been built into us for thousands of years as human beings, right? Of keeping us safe when we are in real danger. Like, for example, being chased by a wild animal. We need to be able to go into a state with our bodies that allows us our greatest chance of survival, where we divert resources away from some regular functions in our body for a short period of time.
Right.
So that we can survive. So, for example, it's going to divert resources away from our digestion so that it can send energy to our muscles, for example, instead, so that we can run or fight. It changes actually even how your brain works and stores memory, because again, you don't need to be taking in as much as you would normally do when you are in, you need to like zone in on staying safe. And this is why if we go into this state and then we return to baseline, sometimes people call it completing the stress cycle. That's a good thing. But if we are chronically in this state, if we are going to work every day and we're going into this state and then we're getting home and we've got all these responsibilities and then we're not, and then we're scrolling on our phones right before bed and then we're going to sleep, getting up, doing the same thing again, we're not returning to that baseline very often. We're staying in a chronic state and those resources are continuously being diverted. We don't have the time to come back, replenish, restore, which is why these digestive issues happen, which is why
I was going to say, is that why when you're super stressed, your digestion sucks? Or people who have traumatic childhoods, their memory of those years isn't very good because their body is in survival mode and the resources that should be going to all of these functions.
That's exactly it, Odette. Like you nailed it. And I mean, listen, again, I am simplifying this very much. But the idea of nervous system devotion is allowing ourselves first and foremost to have a felt sense of safety. Because if we don't have this felt sense of safety, then our nervous system scanning all the time, because we're taking in information like right now, us sitting here, we're taking information about our environment that we're probably not even aware of. And our nervous system is deciding, am I safe? Am I not? Am I safe? Am I not? And this includes real threat and perceived threat, right? Especially like you said, if people have experienced trauma or you are in a really intense work environment where like there's not a sense of stability, or maybe you work for a boss who can be volatile and they're sending you emails at all time of the day and you could need to jump on stuff. So getting an email might become this perceived threat where like you're in real danger when you're not. And so if we don't have this base felt sense of safety, we aren't able to return into our rest and digest as often as we need to. And then that is where we're in trouble, essentially. So first and foremost, figuring out ways to create a felt sense of safety for you, whether that's like through rest, through mindfulness practices, breath work, community, like going out and just laughing with a friend or having like joy and pleasure be a priority in your life, connection. Like we co-regulate together as humans in such a beautiful way when we are with people that we feel safe with, which allows us to then move some of the stuck energy through our body. I'm also a huge fan of rage.
I have a thing about feminine rage.
Like allowing rage, especially as women, to move through our bodies in safe ways. That's actually something I take my clients through. And it's a lot of like movement and screaming into pillows, but in environments where it feels safe, because that can be such a like catalyst for change and truth. And then giving ourselves that space and time to be like, okay, how can I hear and move what my body's asking for?
Yeah. And it's something that I certainly am trying to work at getting better at. And I think a lot of people are. The perceived threat, it's not even the threat. It's just what might,
What fresh hell tomorrow will bring.
let's say lawyers or event planners, you're always thinking about maybe worst case scenario. What's going to go wrong?
Yeah.
How do I, if it does, what can I do now to maybe lessen the impact of it? Like my body will wake me up at 3 a.m. just thinking about what might come into my inbox that day.
Yeah.
Nothing has come in that is current. Like I'm not thinking about a particular email that is in the inbox. I'm thinking about 25 different files that might introduce a fresh level of hell for me that day when I sign into my inbox. I don't think so many of us have the knowledge or the resources to differentiate that perceived threat of maybe an email is going to come through to a lion is chasing me and my children.
Totally.
And they feel the same.
Exactly. And that's the thing where like I keep saying like the nervous system's so intelligent, the body's so intelligent, and then we still have that reptilian part of us that can't tell the difference. And that's why perceived threats don't automatically mean like I'm by no means dismissing the experience that happens when you have a perceived threat come in, right? Because it's very real. It feels very real. And like you said, that waking up at 3 a.m. with the list in your head or the hypervigilance of like, okay, I need to be ready for what might come.
Yeah.
So normal and something to pay attention to, because in an ideal world, we're not waking up at 3 a.m. and going through the list. We're not hypervigilant all the time, scanning our environment for what might come through. And this is part of sort of getting to know our nervous systems, understand what are the activators for each individual, because they're different depending on what your experience has been growing up, like what childhood experiences you've had. If you are a high achiever, how you received love and connection, and was that earned in a way or not? Was it volatile? Was it unstable? All of these things will then lead us into how we operate at work every day and how we respond to an email coming in, even in an imperceptible level, right? And then those things build and build and build. And then you're terrified that something's going to happen. And then we also think that we're preparing for that. Like you said, that scenario planning, I think, is such an important point.
Yeah.
Like for lawyers, for people in these kind of fields where your job relies on you being able to see all of the outcomes, and to think that that's just going to naturally switch off when you leave the office for the day. Unfortunately, that's not it. We have to like tell our bodies, oh, we're no longer in that. Like we don't need to be functioning in that way right now.
Totally. I'm great at figuring out, worst case scenarios, and it doesn't shut off when I close my laptop at the end of the day. And I think a lot of us who are in that kind of, that type of work environment, it is hard to shut off, because I think one of the reasons we are in this profession is because we're good at that.
Yep.
Right? Like
Yeah.
we're good at it, especially as women. We're great at perceiving danger. It is also a survival thing, just as women, how we stay alive. But
Yep.
but sometimes you don't want to be looking out for danger. You just want to relax, and it can be really frustrating when all you're seeing is potential problems, and you just want to like enjoy your fucking dinner.
Relax.
100%.
Oh my gosh. Like, actually, I have a little exercise that I would love to share that can be really helpful in this scenario. It's honestly so simple, but as is with any sort of nervous system exercise, it's like making sure that we do these things. That's the harder part. It's called orienting.
Okay.
And it's simply like if you are in a state where you notice, okay, I'm not present, but I want to be present for this conversation, but I'm thinking about work and I'm scanning my environment and I'm reading this person's facial expressions and unsure what they feel or mean. You can take a moment, giving yourself space and time. So this could be something that you do between work and socializing, for example, or just before dinner so you can feel present. And you just look around your room, and it's really important that as you look around your environment, you're going very slowly as you do, like almost like, do I look ridiculous that I'm doing this so slowly? But really slowly looking and looking up, looking down. So you're looking and taking in your whole room. You can even look behind you, and then allow yourself to settle on an object and really like intentionally take in information about this object. So I'm looking right now actually at a little dachshund stapler, gold dachshund stapler, which is very cute. And I'm looking at it. It's shiny. It's gold. I can imagine that if I was running my hand on it, it'd be really smooth. I'm just really taking in and thinking about the things that please me about this object. And then you can do that with one or two more objects, just thinking about the texture, the sensation, the color, the information. You can do the same thing with sound. So allow yourself to settle on a sound in the room. So you can let yourself come into a sound, into a layer of noise in the environment that maybe you typically tune out. And why this is so good is because, going back to what we talked about earlier, if you are running away from an animal, for example, in survival, you don't have time to stop and take a look at your environment and take in this information about this object. You are just, a lot of this stuff is being filtered out. So when I am able to stop and slow down, also bringing in your breath with this, deep breaths into the diaphragm, expanding the diaphragm 360, you're signaling to your nervous system, oh, if she's able to slow down and take in this information, she can't be in danger right now.
Right.
So then it automatically puts you into a deeper state of safety. Listen, is it going to immediately put you into this like calm, relaxed state? No, you probably need to do it a few times, but that can be a really easy way to shift between meetings, between work and social. Anytime you're like, whoa, okay, why do I feel like I'm being chased by a lion right now when I am absolutely not?
I'm going to use that because I am really good at just having my mind, like, you know, my partner Andrew jokes with me. Any moment that I have one thought, you probably have 100. And I'm like, minimum. Like,
you're like,
min.
I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg.
That's the low end of the estimate. Well, and I also think like that's for some of us just how our brain works, but that's especially a female thing. Like we are thinking about so many things all of the time, and it's a strength, but it can be overwhelming. And it can be like, I'm someone who wakes up, my brain immediately is like, this is all the things you have to do today, and this is it, and this was your dream, and this is a song, and have you talked to so and so lately? And I'm like, whoa, girl, please, we just woke up.
I haven't even had any water yet.
No, I haven't even opened my eyes. Like, take a seat.
Oh my gosh. Or trying to fall asleep. Like you go to bed and you're just running through 10 different scenarios and thinking of your to-do list for the next day. And does that kind of orienting help shift from awake to sleep time?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly can. I think any practice that will support your system getting into a more rest and diet, like we want to be in parasympathetic to go to bed and have a restful night's sleep. We need to be. So anything that will put you into that more parasympathetic state, and that can be so many different things. And I highly, highly encourage anyone that I talk to about this kind of work to find what works for you. Like, I love breath. I find breath can shift my state immediately. For some people, that is just not what works for them necessarily. We all need different things. And so it's like exploring what that could be. But I highly recommend a transition activity between your evening and night. Like when they say put screens away before you go to bed, that isn't just like a nice to have thing. And listen, it's hard, don't get me wrong, because if you've just had a long day, all you want to do is lie in front of the TV and just watch something and then go to bed. But having that transition activity where you give your body time, that can look like, especially if you have an overactive mind, journaling. Like write everything down, all of these thoughts that are coming up right before bed, let's get them all down on paper, knowing that if they're really important still in the morning, I can go back to them. They're all in my journal. Down-regulated breath work, music, sound baths are a beautiful way. Like
Bianca, who was on your podcast, and she did and she does sound baths for like corporate events and stuff.
Yes.
She's so talented, just like an amazing individual. But
so cool.
I love turning on like a YouTube sound bath video when I can't sleep. And I find sound baths are an incredibly good tool to use.
Yeah. Sound baths and also baths are a great way
Yeah,
to wind
literally
down.
human tea.
Yeah, exactly. Warm
Yeah.
bath, pressure, like some people really like touch sensation and pressure, which is another kind of activity you can do. So like squeezing up and down your arms, squeezing up and down your legs. I also find this isn't necessarily a right before bed thing, but I love a human weighted blanket, which is my partner lying on top of me.
Me too.
It's like
Me too.
feels so, I feel like he like puts my nervous system back in my body. That's the only way I can explain it when I'm feeling extra anxious or activated. Yeah, there's lots of things, but these transition activities I think are really important, and it's micro moments too, right? Like I used to think if I can't do this full out, there's no point in doing it at all. And luckily, I've learned it's micro moments in my day. Yeah, my day to day may only allow me to take 3 deep breaths, but that's better than no deep breaths, and that's awesome, you know?
It's the fighting the perfectionism and the self-care,
Mhm.
which I also super guilty of. It's like, well, if I don't have time to do my 3-step skin routine, because like not have time for 12, but like if I don't have time to wash my face, put on my cream, and do my toner, then I might as well not brush my teeth. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. I have the same brain.
do you? Yeah. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
if I can't do everything, I might as well do nothing. It's like your body doesn't, that's not how our bodies work. Our body
No.
isn't like, oh, you just brush your teeth, you didn't wash your face, you get 3 more cavities now. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
No.
not real.
No, it's not at all. The
Mhm.
body appreciates anything that we do for it. And something I talk about a lot, which I think is relevant here, is consistency of alignment. I think that we get caught up in this idea that it has to be consistency of action all the time. But if I'm aligned with what the things that like the value for me of like the things I want to bring in my life, like I am not a meditate every day girly. And I say that as an energy worker. Like I do not, as a nervous system practitioner and energy
Yeah.
worker, I
Yeah.
am not meditating every day. I am not practicing my energy work or doing my breath work as often as anyone probably who's talking to me thinks. But that doesn't mean that if I haven't done my practice for 2 weeks, that I should just give up and not do it because I am a shameful, undisciplined person with no willpower, which is what my brain likes to tell me. But instead, I'm like, ooh, I have some spaciousness in my day today. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to, like, again, it's just these like, how can I set myself up in a way that I love devoting to myself, and I see the benefit of devotion to self in such a beautiful way that through the seasons of life, through the ebbs and flows, through everything that happens, I'm going to keep coming back to my anchor things because it's never going to be perfect. And yes, some days all I do is brush my teeth and get into bed and I can't possibly do anything else. And then some days I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I'm going to do a mask and then I'm going to do an exfoliate. And exactly. And that's not going to be the same every day. Like, especially as women, we are cyclical, rhythmical beings. Nothing in nature just grows on an upward exponential line. I
Right.
mean, someone may debunk that, but I'm pretty sure nothing in nature just goes like
Yeah.
that. It's death rebirth cycles over and over and over again. And women know that better than anyone because every month we go through a hormonal cycle that changes like all the time. We understand that, but then we go to work or school or whatever, and we have to like work in these like very masculine, structured, exponential growth containers.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that goes against every part of our nature. No wonder we are exhausted, burnt out, anxious, frustrated, depressed, because it's like, take a plant and force it to grow every single day exactly the way. Don't drop any leaves. Don't that plant's gonna be like, I can't I can't do it.
And I think so many of us, we worry that if we slow down, if we, prioritize our well-being or deprioritize other things that are taking our attention, we'll lose our edge or we'll fall behind or people will think we're lazy. The coaching that you do you see women worry that if they give themselves that space to come back to baseline, to prioritize themselves, is there a fear that they're going to lose some sort of advantage or edge or not be taken seriously in a very male dominated world?
Absolutely. Like Absolutely. In fact, I just did a podcast episode over on my podcast about this exact thing, of this idea that like, if you are not growing, you're falling behind. And I could not disagree with that statement more. My greatest moments of growth have come after seasons of stillness, seasons of failure, seasons where I looked around me and was like, everyone is doing better than me, faster than me, and I am so behind. And I say behind from any measure of that, because listen, social media, that highlight reel can give you an endless like list of reasons why you're behind. I love a little fire lit under me? Do I love some motivation? Do I think that there are seasons where we absolutely like go all in and see what we're made of? For sure. But if we think that that is the only way that we can work, which is like exponential growth, you are going to burn out and you are going to be forced to slow down at some point. Why not move with the natural rhythms and see what those moments teach us and allow us to grow even further? When you're in the moment, it's really hard to see why it's not your time. And it can be really frustrating. Like, I don't discount why people keep pushing themselves, because you do feel like, oh, something's wrong if I don't. And yes, me 4 or 5 years, or no more than that now, 5 years ago, couldn't see that and felt like all I was doing was failing and falling behind. But in fact, the universe, source, my higher self, whatever it is, God, that you believe in, there is another path for you. Like, I deeply, deeply, deeply believe that whatever is meant for you won't miss you. It just likely is not going to be delivered on the timeline or in the packaging that you have in your brain decided it should be. And so I get the fear, and it's so normal. And I cannot express enough how important it is to slow down and realign, because otherwise you're likely going to find yourself on a path at some point that you really, really wish you hadn't pushed towards. I want kids. Like, this is an active thing I want in my life that I am currently trying to make a reality. And I, at 33, when I ended my last relationship, I was like, I might just have to throw that entire dream out the window. And I stayed for as long as I stayed because of that fear that I was too old. I wasn't going to be able to have a family, shriveled. My ovaries were dust, like whatever that BS we tell us. I now look back and I'm like, I was actually a child.
A child.
It's crazy how our perception of time can shift once we start really seeing, like, lifting the veil. Do you know what I mean? And like seeing behind the curtain and realizing like, this is totally 100%. Like, start a new career if you want to at 50, like write a book, go back to school at 70. Like, my mom is in her late 60s and she's writing a book right now. And like, she's been a writer her whole life. She's ghostwritten books for other people and she's finally doing it for herself now. And I'm like, heck,
amazing.
Yes.
Also, Hannah's parents are the coolest. Like, your parents, your sister, your whole family, like just your entire, and you, like, everyone is amazing. And that is so exciting for your mom. Because I know when you talk about your mom, you say how she is such a cheerleader for you and how she's always the first person to cheer you on and to be excited for you. And so that is such a wonderful thing to hear, that she's doing that for herself too.
Oh yeah. My mom is like, first of all, like the original girl's girl. Like, she has been cheering women on. Like, she cheers everyone on, but she has been cheering women on. My sister and you have her on Instagram. She will be the first person in your comments, like saying you can do it, or you've done an amazing job. She's liking all your stuff. She is such a champion for women, like getting their voice and their truth out there. Comes from a long line of like strong, incredible women. And like, I'm so lucky to have learned from someone like that. And I don't think I even realized it until more recently, that like, it takes absolutely nothing away from you to like cheer so loudly for other people, and especially other women.
She deserves all the flowers. She deserves it all.
Yeah. She does, for sure.
It seems like, at least, you know, no one's perfect, and obviously we all have our challenges, but it seems like you've rebuilt or are rebuilding in a way that hopefully doesn't you require to always operate in that survival mode. How has your definition of success changed?
Oh my gosh, I actually love this question because defining success on an individual level, I think, is so abundantly important. I used to define success basically solely like in school by grades and then at work by the amount of money that I was making. And then when I became a freelancer, it was like, how many gigs can I book? When I started building my own event production business, it was like, how many clients can I bring on and how much money and how can I increase year over year my income, which is by no means a bad goal to have. Like, I want all the money in the hands of all the good women. I think like I want millionaire, billionaire women all the way out there because I think it will absolutely change how the world works. But it was kind of my only measure of success. And like, instead of what is the full system of wealth that I can bring into my life. And so linking this back to the beginning of the episode, when we were talking about the fact that I shut down a multi-six-figure business, I had amazing bank account, all my other markers of wealth, like my personal, my health, all of that were not good. Whereas I redefine success now by a full body system wealth, which means that my health is a priority. My body is a priority. My truth is a priority. And my presence is the number one marker of success for me. If I can't be present with friends, family, with my life, with things that bring me joy, it doesn't matter what amount of money is in my bank account, because for me, that is the number one value. So that has been a huge piece for me. Freedom is a huge piece for me. So freedom to set my own schedule, freedom to say yes and no to the work or clients that I want to say yes or no to. And that takes time. And it's not, listen, if you think I'm out here, like being able to just take whatever job I want, whenever I want, that's not the entire thing, but it's like, I have kind of a measure. How devoted am I to myself, being as balanced as possible? And when I get off track with that, because like you said, no one's perfect, how good am I at being aware, recognizing the signals and bringing myself back on track? Because we're all going to veer off, but like, am I veering 90 degrees off before I realize, or am I 2 degrees off before I course correct?
The thing you said about the full bank account not being the only indicator of success now, I think will resonate with a lot of people. Not only from how much you make defines you or how much you can buy defines you, but from simply you can't take it with you. If you know someone who's left the world or gotten really sick and you realize that there's only so much money can buy, and yes, to a certain extent, it can buy, it can buy security, it can buy health insurance, it can buy food. Like there's a certain amount, but I think at a certain point, chasing that dollar amount, like you said, it's diminishing returns at a certain point when that's the only thing that matters.
100%. We have to ask ourselves, like, why am I chasing this? Exactly what you said. A base level of security is extremely important. Like that is the case for every human being on this planet. But when, at least for me, the only goal was year after year to increase that amount, and at the cost of my health, my relationships, my mental capacity. And then also, when was I ever going to be satisfied with, like, what did it need to get to? And was I always going to move the dial? Because when we don't inquire about our relationship to money, it's often a nervous system response, wanting more money, wanting more status, wanting a certain dollar in the bank account, is back to that idea of external validation. If I have $200,000 in the bank account, I am going to be worthy. Well, you're going to get to that point if that's what you believe, and it is not going to feel the way you think it is, unfortunately. And so I just think it's money is important. And also money is an energy, going back to what you said about like, you can't take it when you're gone. Actually, even now, money needs to flow. If you are holding and hoarding wealth, That's not how money is meant to work. We are meant to bring it in, send it out, go back and forth. And I will tell you, my entire concept of money has changed actually since being with my partner, but also since doing this work. The universe provides for you in a way that is crazy when you start providing for yourself. I'll give a very concrete example here. Last year, so my partner and I are trying to get pregnant, and the hope was that I'm self-employed, but I have mat leave coverage. Through that, I have self-employment EI, essentially. Don't need to get into the details of it, but there is a threshold for anyone who doesn't know how mat leave coverage works. There's a threshold that you need to meet with your income in order to make sure that you get the full payout. And especially as a self-employed person who pays directly into my EI all myself, I'm like, I really want to reap that full max benefit. So I got to a point last year where I had gotten to a certain level with my income, and I needed to push it a little bit further because I was in a transition year with my business. My income had completely changed from what it was before. And I was like, oh, shoot, I'm not going to meet this. I don't have enough months left in the year to meet this threshold that I need to meet. Yeah. And I said to the universe, and I talked to the universe a lot, and I said, can you please help me get to this max threshold? My logical brain was like, ain't no fucking way. There is no chance. Like, I don't have enough hours left to dedicate to make the money that I need to make right now. And then a client came to me and was like, hey, so we want to extend you into next year, but because of some of our accounting, we need to pay you upfront in this year. Is that okay with you? I'm like, where they're like, I'm really sorry to ask this. And I was like, yeah, I think that'll work.
I can do that. Yeah.
Like, and this is what I mean by like, it's not going to come in the way you think it is, in the package you think, and necessarily on the timeline you think. But when you take the risks and you pour into yourself and you trust the universe, which is very hard and goes back to why nervous system devotion is so important, because surrender is not an easy thing for our bodies to hold when we're not used to it.
No.
Things like this pop up. Like, it really does. And I'm not advocating for being irresponsible with money by any means, but it will show up in ways you just don't know. And when we are able to stop and have gratitude for that, like, yes, am I stacking my bank account? Am I stacking my savings in the way I would like to? No, but I am well taken care of. And we realize that, like, our construct and concept of how money works, it's like dollar in the bank account, build, actually isn't the reality of how energetically we're taken care of. I could go way deeper into it, but that's sort of a good example.
I love that. Before I ask my very last question, if people want to find you, work with you, hire you, listen to you, which I suggest, where can people find you, Hannah?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like we mentioned, the Untamed Divine podcast, I talk about a lot of what we've sort of touched on here, but in more depth with some actionable takeaways. So I highly recommend going and checking that out. And then also I have a little gift for your listeners.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So it's called The Return Journey, and it's 5 audio activations for devotion to self. So a lot of like what we've been talking about here with, coming back to the nervous system, devoting to self. These audio activations are the first sort of steps towards that, experiencing that. So I think that's a really beautiful way to start to understand my work and see if it's for you. And then through that, you'll be on my email list and you'll be able to hear about all the good juicy stuff that's coming up, a lot of which will be launching, and I've got a new program launching in April and all that good stuff. So the Return Journey is a really, really good place to start.
That's so exciting. And thank you so much. And thank you on behalf of everyone who will access it. I'm certainly excited for it. And you're just a wonderful human being in a bright light.
Right back at you. At you.
Thank you. I always like to wrap up with a random question. If you were given the opportunity to either time travel back or forward for a day, what would you choose and why?
I think I'm going to go with what my gut, like I was going to kind of analyze it in my head, but I'm going to listen to my body, what I immediately thought of, and I'd go back. I would go back probably to the 70s. I feel very
Oh, I just got like goosebumps. Like, I love that answer.
70s. I'm very, very attracted to 70s surf culture. So somewhere
Like
back
Venice
there.
Beach?
Yeah,
Like,
I think so.
yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in California, 70s surf culture. Also just to see, like, listen, I know we grew up like on the cusp of technology and internet and all of that coming in, and I'm really grateful that part of my childhood was like protected from that. But I would love to go back and just understand, like, how did we exist, and probably really ask people like, are you experiencing the same stuff that we are? And also, I wouldn't travel forward just because I don't think I want to know, at least with everything that's happening right now, what that future looks like, because I want to hold on to the deep hope that I have that
Yeah.
like we are going to shift to a different timeline than what it looks like we are heading towards.
You know what? I actually had a very similar answer. I don't want to know.
I don't wanna know.
What the future holds. I want to hold on to that hope and optimism, and I don't want to change what I'm doing right now to try and influence or change that. So I love your answer, and I love the surf culture.
The less you do, the more you do.
Well, I could literally talk with you all day.
Me too.
I'm so grateful for your time, and you just make my heart happy. And I'm
Oh, thank
just
you
really
for saying
grateful.
that. I feel the exact same way about you, Odette, and the space that you're creating here for lawyers and non-lawyers alike is really, really beautiful. And I love what you're talking about, and sort of like myth busting and giving permission. It's so important.
Thank you so much. It was lovely talking with you.
Thank you, Odette.
All right, that was my talk with my friend Hannah. Hannah, thank you so much for sharing your story and your perspective today. I think a lot of lawyers listening will recognize that there's this tension between ambition and well-being, and hopefully the conversation today will give you the permission you might need to ask some questions about how you work and what success really should mean to you. If this episode resonated with you, or you think it would help someone you know, please feel free to send it to a friend or a colleague in the profession who might need to hear it. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and follow us on Instagram. And until next time, bye. 17 Take Charlie.